This is the Comics Alternative, on location at Collected Comics and Games in Plano, Texas. Greetings and welcome to another episode of the Comics Alternative, on location at Collected Comics and Games in Plano, Texas. The shop is located at 3100 Independence Parkway, and that is on the corner of Independence and Parker in Plano, Texas. So if you know the area, or if you are going to be in the DFW area and you find yourself around Plano, then be sure to stop by Collected in Plano. They have great people who work here. They'll help you with your selections and make a lot of really cool recommendations, as they do every month that we're here. And in fact, sitting across from me right now is the shop manager, Sabrina. Hello.
Hi. Hello.
And so she definitely knows her stuff. In fact, I think the last episode she made some quite numerous recommendations for new upcoming titles. Also sitting with us right now is another shop employee, Stephanie.
Hello.
And then Craig, who is not only a dedicated customer of Collected, but also a dedicated participant of our monthly shows here at the shop.
So. Yes, hello.
Hello. I know you were temporarily making room for another who has joined us, and much like Craig, this is someone who comes into the shop often and talks with us as much as he can. Matt, how you doing?
Salutations. I'm doing well.
Good. So we thought that this being July, that we would use as a discussion topic summer reading. What you're reading this summer, what you plan on reading during the summer break, if you get a summer break, and what about the comics that you're reading tend to be summer reading material and not something that you would necessarily read just any time of the year. For instance, if you use the summer to catch up with a lot of reading that you've been wanting to do but haven't done yet, that could be a potential topic as well. So, what have you guys been reading? Because it's been a couple of months since I've been in the shop. I was not able to make it here in June because I was out of town most of that month. Right. But here we are in the first full week of June, and we're doing our show. So, since we last talked, what have you been reading for the summer?
So what I've been reading lately is I've been trying to catch up on the DC Rebirth titles, and so a lot of like DC's Rebirth, Wonder Woman I've really enjoyed. The Green Arrow series has been really, really wonderful, and all that stuff. Basically, the whole 52 universe is finally destroyed, and as their apology, they're finally fixing the heroes and behaving heroes like they should be, and that's been a fun series to read, and it's still, you guys better hurry up, because I think right now all they got is like second printing of most of the Rebirth stuff, but still, I recommend it. It's been pretty fun. The writing has been pretty top notch. The artwork so far has been really, really good. So that's been a lot of fun. And what's the other one? IDW is starting to go into their shared universe stuff, so I've been reading their preludes up to their shared universe with all of their toy franchises.
Okay.
So that's just been interesting, because I'm wondering how it's all going to work.
This is interesting to hear what you say now about DC Rebirth, because several months ago I remember being in here and I asked you guys, what are your thoughts on this whole Rebirth thing? And you weren't that enthusiastic.
I was not enthusiastic at all.
Because you're not big DC people, right?
No.
Right.
Well, I mean, I'm a huge DC person. I just wasn't a fan of their direction that they were going with the new 52.
So you had no faith?
I was kind of broken at that point. They kind of just abused my trust over and over again, because I'd be like, oh, that sounds great, and then I'd pick it up, and it would just be like, well, we obviously don't care about readers like you when writing it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But so far, and it also seems like, unlike the 52, which didn't feel like it had a direction, it was just like, oh, we did a thing, and then just go. This one seems like they at least put some more thought into how they want their world to be like, and that all the comics seem to be sharing that shared vision, and yet still have their heroes do what heroes should be doing. And It's, like I said, so far it's been really a lot of fun to read, especially the Wonder Woman who wrapped herself up in the lasso of truth and found out everything she was a lie, and so now she has to go and find herself, and who is she really, what type of hero is she? And that's been Mark Waid has been writing all of that, and I'm a big fan of Mark Waid, and he is doing a great job with Wonder Woman so far.
It's interesting you were saying that they seem to be really on mark and planning things out at DC with Rebirth, and how it's so different, at least for you, from the New 52. And I can't remember, around the time of the New 52 back in 2011, was DC going around doing something like they did more recently with Rebirth with their roadshow? Taking it out and talking with retailers to try to drum up interest and to describe a game plan. Can anybody remember if they were doing that?
They were talking at conventions, really. They weren't really... I mean, I wasn't doing the retail side of things then, but I do remember them having panels and such, but not really being like, we talked to these retailers and we're seeing what the fans like. Because even when they were talking to fans, I know... there's an infamous incident where Dan Didio was very rude to someone cosplaying as Stephanie Brown, and then being very hateful about when someone asked, "Oh, how many female-led books are there?" And then why don't you have more female creators? And he was just like, "Why don't you write me a list?" And then they don't let him talk anymore. Those kind of things.
Wow.
Yeah, it was kind of very embarrassing.
Not good publicity there.
No.
But no, I don't remember and I'm not a retailer or anything, but I don't remember them ever coming to retail shops. I do remember them talking a lot they did go through a tour of certain conventions, but I don't remember them coming local conventions either. It was just more of the national conventions like San Diego and New York Comic Con. The Rebirth ones, I think they were trying to show, look, we made a mistake last time, and we need to get our readers back that used to read us all the time, and we need to... I think they actually made more of an effort of showing that we made a mistake and we're trying to fix it, and please come back.
Yeah. And you were talking about how the availability of these titles, or at least the first printings, they're becoming a rarity. And one of the things I did not do, because, again, after a while, I just get what's called event fatigue.
Yes.
I don't, and I'm one of those who gets event fatigue, and I'm not even involved in the events. I'm just sick and tired of hearing about it.
Right.
This revamp, this rebirth, this new and improved, this blah, 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 blah. And so I did not even think about ordering DC Rebirth, and even if I wanted to get a copy now, it'd be extremely difficult.
Especially if you want a first printing. I know you can find some of the second printings now, but you may have to wait for a third printing to come out now. It's getting pretty hard to get, so I'm happy, one, that they're getting good comics and it's doing really, really well. Mm-hmm. But it is getting really hard for people that may be like yourself, event fatigue. They're like, well, maybe I want to read that. Now you can't find it.
Yeah. But what I usually do with events when it comes to the big two is wait until after the fact, wait till everything happens, and then go back and read it more solidly as a coherent narrative where I don't have to wait.
Right,
every month or every 2 weeks for something.
That's a smart move. That's pretty cool.
Well, yeah, but the downside of that is I'm out of the loop during the time.
True.
Yeah.
True. So yeah.
I think Marvel did something like that. Something that you probably is I think they did a hardcover of a collection of all the events leading up to Secret Wars. And I guess, months and months and months after that's come out. And I mean, if DC did the same thing, I'm sure people would like it a lot more.
Yeah.
Instead of collecting all these different issues, once they put Rebirth all into one collection, I think that would, be tremendously more popular.
Mm-hmm. But you mentioned Secret Wars, which was an event from last year, or at least its most recent manifestation is from last year, which brings me to my point. It's gotten to the point that Marvel can't even think of new names for events. No. It's like the next Secret Wars or Civil War 2. So are we going to get what? Fear itself next again? Scared again?
Well, I would argue it's not that they can't come up with events. It's that they're heavily buying into people's nostalgia. Because before Civil War 2 happened, there was a vote that they put out and was like, "Hey, vote for your favorite events." And Civil War won, so it's not surprisingly that they threw that into Captain America 3's title, and that they also made that the next event because it's a money decision. But it's not fun creatively if you're wanting to see something new.
Yeah, and also it doesn't strike me as being operative for long-term goals.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, just because you have that nostalgic element, just because the people want it, doesn't mean you need to do that.
Exactly.
You know, it's like, what are they saying? Stop us before we publish again?
Yeah.
You know, we have no control over this thing?
Yeah, and that's what's kind of feeling, and that Marvel will not let... Marvel doesn't seem to want to, like... All right, I'm going to show my age here, but in the past, they did use, you know, there used to be events all the time back when I was growing up and going to school, but they were once-a-year events. You would be, you know, all of a sudden school was out, everybody was out summer, they had money, and they would have giant events like Secret Wars or Civil War. And then the rest of the year after that summer, everyone went back to school, and they would let that event breathe throughout the whole world. And you got to learn about the new characters that happened, or what happened to your favorite characters that happened in that event, that you had a chance to get some closure off of that event before the next event happened. Now Marvel's is like we're having an event to have an event to have an event, and none of the characters are able to grow. They're just just throwing out there to punch people in the faces.
And even then, it's not that long ago, because I remember there was some event in Avengers comics where they kind of had this cosmic weird thing happening, and on the wall they saw like a timeline. And if you looked at it, it made sense, because in the future you could see like Secret Invasion and Siege, so they had a plan.
Yes.
And that was back when they were like, Bendis was kind of piloting the ship, and they had one thing per year.
Yes.
And I miss that, because now it's like, okay, you have an event, and now you have an event, and it's like no one grows or changes from anything.
No, and exactly right. That's also true when they did like the Secret Wars and all that, or not the Secret Wars, but the Secret Invasion that led up to Civil War and all that type of stuff. All of that was planned out, and they would parcel it out a little bit. And the comics, the supporting comics, just said, hey, we know this is going to happen, and so they actually built up to it slowly, and then all of a sudden, surprise, the Skrulls are taking over.
Yeah.
But now they don't seem to be doing that. It's just leading up to another event, and then just by the time that event's over, the next event has started.
And I know everyone was ragging on DC, because I mean there was a lot of things not to like about New 52, but they only had like 2 events in the entire like 5-year period that they did.
And they were terrible.
Yeah, neither of them were good, but it was Future's End and Convergence. Those were like the only 2 events that they had in that.
And then they were more, I don't know if you'd call them events, but they were more localized storylines, like the Rot in the Sandman, Animal, not Sandman, I'm sorry, Swamp Thing, Animal Man titles.
Yeah.
Teen Titans was loosely tied to that too, because that's why Beast Boy was red when he was introduced. Yeah, it was dumb. He's green now.
Yay!
Yeah, like I said, they were terrible.
It's okay, I believe you.
Yeah, a waste of money.
Okay, so that's Craig, what you're reading.
Yeah, that's part of what I'm reading right now, and of course I'm still reading. I'm a Marvel fanboy, so I still read Marvel, even if I just trashed them. I still read Marvel because those are the heroes I grew up with, and I still love them. So mostly it's the all-new Wolverine has been a fun title to read, and so I still recommend that one. And there's a few others here, but it's mostly the Wolverine and other titles like that one.
What about the rest of you? What are you reading this summer?
Well, I recently read, and by recently I mean last night.
So very recently.
Yes, very recently, and it stands out. How to Talk to Girls at Parties by Neil Gaiman.
Oh, so that just recently came out, didn't it?
Yes,
Yeah,
you
like 2
were, in
weeks
fact,
ago?
talked to Andy about it on the podcast.
One of the Andys.
Yeah, one of the I was like, I don't know which Andy, but and you thought it looked interesting, but you didn't know how it was, and I'm giving you my 2 thumbs up.
Okay, so you're giving us the recommendation that this is something that we could possibly consider for a future discussion.
Oh yeah, it's a quick read. I'm not sure how many pages it is, maybe 20 to 30. I mean, the cover to the hardcover is a lot thicker than the page, the overall pages. But it's a short read, just like all of Gaiman's short stories. But it's memorable, full of metaphors, or maybe not, depending on how you want to look at it. And I kind of like his way of interpreting this story or how you interpret it is you could take it literally about the events that happen in the book, or you can take it figuratively. And I'm kind of on the hands of maybe a little bit of both, depending on how you look at it. But it's definitely taking. You want to take a look at it. I really can't talk about what happens in the plot without giving it away, because it's a huge spoiler. Even
and the art on that is by is it Fabio Moon, Gabriel Ba?
Yeah, you're
okay.
Right. They do the watercolors.
Yes. In fact, they were at Heroes Con last month, and I wanted to get them to sign some stuff of mine.
Oh, I should have.
I couldn't.
I should have given you my hardcover.
Yeah.
Oh well. But so, just a quick synopsis, and you probably could just read it on the back. It's very quick. Is two. I want to say teenagers. He keeps saying that they're 15 years old, and I'm like, these guys are acting really adult to be, be 15. So I don't know. Maybe it's an age of the times. So. But Vic and Ian hear about this party from a girl, and they go to find this house full of all these women, and things are not quite what they seem, and that is a big, huge parentheses. And so you feel free to interpret what happens in your own mind, but it's fascinating, and I love it. The watercolor is beautiful and fantastic. It switches from like dark to one panel to bright, vibrant oranges and pinks in another.
And it follows the story really well. How if the story's going dark, the watercolor starts getting darker, and then if it starts brightening up, the art it's fantastic. Yeah.
Oh, you picked it up too, didn't you?
Yeah.
Oh, I knew you would.
Neil is one of my favorite writers. Ever since I read American Gods, and then realized, oh my God, he read comics too, and I had to pick up almost everything. And this is he's a master storyteller, so that's a reason itself.
Have you picked up House at the Ocean at the End of the Lane?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's fantastic.
It's along if you've read that, it's along the same lines. It's a lot of metaphors and symbolism in the books, and you kind of have to read in between the lines to figure out what's going on, and then you can draw your own conclusions from there. And it's a real thinking comic, and I really kind of enjoy that a lot.
One of the things that we have discussed just recently on the podcast, me and Andy Kunka, is the fact, or Andy Kunka and I have discussed, is the fact that there have been, over the past few months, quite a number of reprints of older Neil Gaiman comics.
Yeah.
Many of them coming out through Dark Horse, and we were, in fact, on the episode that went up just today, we were speculating on why that may be so. I mean, is it just a matter of timing, fortuitous timing, or is there, a concerted push to get this stuff back out there?
I think it's like, if you want hardcover, they produce the hardcover after so many months, and
but no, this is stuff that's been around for a while.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Is that like the Graveyard book? It's I believe it's coming in a collected hardcover bound edition, like all 3 volumes, coming later this year, like probably in the fall. And I'm more interested in that. I'm like I keep looking at the paperback volumes up there, and I'm like, I just want to wait till the hardcover comes out, so it's all together at once.
Right.
So that's a good recommendation from you, and we take your recommendation seriously, because if you've listened to the most recent manga episode, we discussed A Silent Voice.
No, thank you for that.
And did you hear that episode?
I did. I listened to it the other day, and I mean, what I kind of wanted to reread it after hearing what your thoughts were, and I can understand how it's a little confusing, when some of the plot wasn't finished, and I think it was purposely supposed to be vague,
The end. Yeah. But now I remember Craig. I'm sorry. I'm sitting here looking at you. Shay had much more of a problem with the ending than I did.
Yeah.
I was okay with it for the most part, because I like that kind of almost rough, ambiguous, incomplete ending.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that seems to resonate.
Yeah.
The issue that I had, and it was a very minor issue, because overall I really liked the series, was that there were times, especially in the first half of the series, because it's seven volumes, where you had the protagonist agonizing over making amends because of what he did when he was a kid and was a bully. And, okay, I'm glad he feels bad about that, but I likened it to something like Hamlet on steroids, right?
Right,
so
yeah,
he's
yeah,
going,
yeah.
should I or shouldn't I? Should I or shouldn't I? What can I do? And he can't make a decision. It's like, just put it behind you, dude.
Well, it's one of those things, he was traumatized as a kid because, you bully the bully, and people are very complicated, and you never know unless it happens to you what kind of things you go through. And I mean, it kind of the way that she wrote the character. I can't remember the main character's name for the life of me.
Yeah, I'm as well.
But it seemed very real the way that she wrote him. How he was. Should I do this? Shouldn't I do that? He was very not sure just because he hadn't been that way throughout, his whole life. He'd always be the instigator and stuff like that. Now he's very meek. Mm-hmm. So it's very 360 on his character. That maybe that's why I threw people for a loop. I'm not sure. That's just my own interpretation. So,
but that was a good recommendation. I'm glad we read that for the series.
Oh yeah, sure.
So. So Stephanie, what are you reading this? Because you have your big stack of comics in your lap now. It is Wednesday.
Well, I need to get another box for my stuff at home, but I've been.
Well, they have boxes here.
I know. Shout out to my store, but they have Jade Street Protection Services, which is about, because I thought it was one thing, and I'm looking at it now, and it's actually a bit of another thing. So it's basically modern day magical girls at a school for magical girls, and they're like a girl gang, and they discover one of their teachers is actually stripping students of magic and selling their magical girl items. And it's like, okay, if our magic's for sale, what is it worth? And so they're trying to stop that. It's pretty cool, and the art's really great, and it has a really just varying, a lot of different kind of characters in this girl gang. It's really cool. And so there's also...
And this is another Black Mask book.
Yeah, it is a Black Mask book. And then Kim and Kim, which is pretty awesome. Sabrina has it.
She was the one who recommended that last time.
I picked up both first, so I would know which one to pick up later.
But so Kim and Kim... Oh, this is Bounty. Okay,
yeah,
so that's another one I've been meaning to get too.
Yeah.
But this is Bounty is by the author of Rat Queens. It's his new book. Mm-hmm. And then Kim and Kim is basically these two girls who are bounty hunters. And there is this one person who has this huge bounty on his head, and they find him and take pity on him, but that kind of makes them wanted as well. And they're going up against one of the girls' former bounty hunter family sort of thing, so it's kind of interesting.
Now at HeroesCon you actually interviewed the author?
Yeah, one of the authors, Masaggio. And
that
was good. And in fact, how that came about actually is because of Sabrina, because this table was on the opposite side of the floor where we were. And I wouldn't get to that part of Artist Alley that frequently, but I happened to be walking by, and I noticed the cover, or I guess, I don't know if it was a cover or just an image of Kim and Kim on the table, and I recognized the image because it's something that you hadn't pointed out when we were here last time, when I was here last time. And so I thought, okay, this is interesting. And I mentioned something to the creator that just recently on an on-location episode of my podcast, the shop manager where we recorded had mentioned that she'd read the first issue. She really liked it. She sang your praises on that episode. And then I thought, why don't I interview her? So, yeah, that's how I met her.
It's pretty great.
How does it feel to have lots of fans at the HeroesCon?
I don't know if I'd say lots of fans, but there were a number of people who would come up and say, hey, we do listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
Nice.
Which is always nice. We had the same experience last year. I got the feeling that there were more people this year that knew who we were and came by and talked with us. So, I mean, that is a good feeling. Now, no one who listens to the podcast felt impelled to buy one of our T-shirts. And by the way, I'm amazed that no one has commented on what I'm wearing tonight.
It is a very good-looking T-shirt.
Which is the official Comics Alternative T-shirt with a logo designed by Andy Hirsch.
Mm-hmm. Oh, nice.
Who not only is a friend of the show, but comes into collect it. This is his local shop. And so, we had...
this is the new logo you were talking about last time you were here.
The new logo now has been released.
Nice.
And we have T-shirts. I had a number of T-shirts printed up, and I wanted to try this as a first run. I've never sold anything like this before. So we had a variety of sizes with the 4-color image, which is what I'm wearing here. Mm-hmm. And then we also have a single-color T-shirt, which is cheaper because it's only just one color. So it's white on black. And we didn't sell any of those, unfortunately.
No.
We also had printed up a very few T-shirts with an image created for us specifically by Craig Yo.
Nice.
I asked him if he was interested in doing that, and he said, yeah, sure, because you're my favorite podcast. So he drew a really interesting image, and we ended up putting it on a T-shirt, and so I had a few of those printed up.
Sweet. That's kind of awesome.
It is, yeah. So if anyone wants to find out more about the Comics Alternative T-shirts, then they should definitely get in touch with us at 2guys@comicsalternative.com. And pretty soon we're going to be revamping our Patreon campaign to include T-shirts.
Nice.
So, there's going to be more talk of T-shirts in the future on the podcast. But we will get to that eventually. But yes, this all sprang from your comment about Heroes Con. So it was a good experience. We had a great time again this year.
Excellent.
That's awesome. It sounded like you're having a great time. Going there, and you got some really great people to do some interviews with.
Yeah, we had a great time generating a variety of different kind of shows. We did one of our weekly episodes where we recorded each of the 3 days and then combined that all into our show for that following week. And then we did a lot of shorter interviews, as you mentioned, with a lot of creators. I think Andy.
I know you were the guy that did most of the work.
He admitted that he was kind of lazy this time around. But he helped me record the intro and outro for that episode, so that was something.
Yeah, I listened to a lot of the interviews you did for the different creators and stuff.
Yeah, there were about 11 interviews that we did, and then we did one long sit-down interview with Miss Lasco Gross and Kevin Colden, who have a... By the way, do you guys carry The Sweetness from Z2 Comics?
I don't remember.
You should. It's a great title. Over the past several months, Z2 has started to put out more serials, and The Sweetness is part of this initiative. It's a really interesting take on sci-fi heist narratives. So we talked with those two guys. They came to our table. We broke out mics just like this, and then talked to them for a sustained period of time Sunday morning before they started letting people in. And so that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, there was really good interviews in there. Really, and they talked a lot about some really cool comics, and that was really a lot of fun to listen to.
Yeah, and some of those people that I interviewed, we had talked to before. So, for instance, I spoke briefly with Ryan Brown, and we'd had him on the show before. I talked with Jeremy Hurley, and he had been on the show before. But I tried specifically to reach out to people who I'd never spoken with before for the Comics Alternative, and maybe whose work I didn't even know about.
Yeah, and that was something you were talking about before Heroes Con, was when you were able to get some of those guys that you haven't talked to before and stuff like that. So it was nice to see that you were successful, and I knew you were a little bit worried about that before.
Well, I'm glad you guys like those shows.
Yeah.
I was actually curious because you... y'all were getting lots of stuff signed, and I was curious to what kind of stuff what kind of comics and stuff that you did.
I only got a fraction of what I brought with me. I brought too much to have signed. And for the most part, it was just more contemporary stuff, not like older material or anything that I would want slabbed.
Sure.
Which I have done in the past, but just not this year. Like, for instance, I took some of my haunted horror comics or weird love comics for Craig Yo to sign. I took number one issues of various comics that I have if they weren't signed by creators who were going to be there. But again, kind of contemporary stuff.
So stuff that's mostly on the market, no super indie, like hard to get.
If there were super indie hard to get stuff and I knew the creator was going to be there, then yeah, I would take it with me. That is something that I'll do more at SPX in September. I think it's in September this year. So, I mean, those are the thing about HeroesCon. HeroesCon is a really good mixture of mainstream creators, and if you want to say independent, okay, but if you mean by independent creators who work primarily with, let's say, Oni or Image, Dark Horse, smaller presses, a few self-published people, but it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Now at SPX, really no mainstream stuff whatsoever.
Oh, okay.
And so almost at least, well, I say this. I've only been to SPX once, and that was last year, but that time, I mean, very, very crowded in terms of both the people in attendance and also the people tabling. And of the people who were tabling, I mean, I only recognized one person who had written for the quote-unquote popular publisher Image.
Oh, wow.
And I say, popular, I mean, they're not the big two. And, I mean,
oh, no.
They sell a lot, but a lot of people consider Image indie, which I don't really consider indie. I mean, I think that it's corporate enough to where if you want to think about a big three, they definitely would be the third of the big three.
Sure.
But, it's not DC or Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
Did you pick up anything that really stood out that was either hard to get or that was special to you?
Brand new material, no.
Any old stuff?
Yes. In fact, I was talking with Sabrina about this right before we started to record. I'm not one to go through long boxes to look for back issues or things that I don't have, just because it's a time sink for me.
Sure.
I won't say time waste because, you can find some really good stuff.
Right.
But if I only have so much time to do something at a con, like do interviews and whatnot, and of course man the table there that we had on Artist Alley, I can't spend too much time going through all the boxes. So I don't do a lot of that, like going back to fill in my collection or to get those things that I had as a kid that I ended up selling. Now I want back for nostalgic reasons. But I was going through one vendor's section. He had several a really big section actually of long boxes of comics for just $1. And so I thought, I'll just flip through this. And I started to flip through it, and I noticed that he had quite a number of underground, like later underground comics, like from the mid to late 70s, maybe even into the 80s when underground was becoming alternative. And so I got some of those, and the best find in those boxes, there was a whole string, not an entire run, but a really good chunk of the run, of the Spirit reprints that Kitchen Sink ran.
Nice.
So I got as many as I could find for just $1 each.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah, so I guess that was my big find.
Very nice. Sabrina?
Yeah, Sabrina, you should tell
You
us what
haven't
you're
shared with us what you're
She's
holding
got
up.
a lot of stuff.
Throwaways.
It was good. But why was it good?
Yes, I was waiting for you to continue that.
Elaborate.
Right? No, you should buy
words.
it. All right.
Because
So,
I said so.
yeah, it's good because I said so. Go find it.
And this just came out?
It did. It came out today.
That's a good
Today?
enough excuse.
Yep.
It's under Image. They're definitely my favorite publisher at the moment. But I'd say it's a spy book, sort of. Because you start off with these two main characters. These are the two people that you're going to be following through the story, a man and a woman. And they're in a sticky situation. Some bad stuff is happening. How did they get there? Well, how convenient, because now it transitioned to 4 hours earlier, and you learn that she was in the military, and she's at a meeting for people with stress disorders. You know, because war's stressful. But things happen. I don't want to give too much detail, but some bad stuff happens, and she gets contacted by someone she doesn't know who it is to do something that she's like, what? Why do I need to do this? You know? So that's when she ends up running into this guy with the mohawk, who is notorious because of his father. He was not a good guy. Kind of went, she says, he went David Koresh. Yeah, I was like, that's, younger people might not get that. But yeah, your story gets crazy. You have a few flashbacks to get a little more detail on her. You still don't know a lot about the guy. It's very much like an onion. You're peeling back the layers. You still have a lot of mystery that really makes you want more when you're done. I don't want to wait a whole month for the next issue.
It's pretty thick for a first issue, right?
It was. And then, like, at the first part of the book, it looks like the guy has superpowers, because doesn't he have, like, glass and rocks and stuff flowing around his hands, and he throws them at people, and it's like, what? How did that happen?
Yeah, seriously. She's like, I'm out of ammo, and he's like, hold up, got this.
And it looks like a great book. The art is fantastic.
Good art.
And the storyline really hooks you. It's really good.
Is this a plan for an ongoing or a limited series?
I believe it's an ongoing.
Okay.
I haven't seen anything about it being a 1 in 5 or anything. So.
Yeah, but I've heard that that a bunch of publishers like wait till like the second issue or something like that to mention that, because they don't want people to be like, oh, I'll buy that when it comes out in trade. They're like.
And Image does this all the time. In fact, whenever they mention in a solicit that the first issue is 1 of 6 or 1 of 5 or however many, that's unusual. And that can be, I understand why creators do that. And in fact, I was talking with Ed Brisson back in the fall on the Comics Alternative, and we discussed that phenomena. And he said the reason that they do that, at Image especially, is for economic reasons that Stephanie was mentioning, that they think that if people knows that this is going to be a 5-issue miniseries or a 6-issue limited series, then they may get the first issue but not the subsequent ones and wait for the trade. And that doesn't do as much, for economically speaking, for the creators. So they don't mention that. But also they're testing the waters. If something looks like it's going to sell and could become an ongoing, then great. If it doesn't, that they can stop it sooner rather than later. Which reminds me of another interview that we did for the show. This one was very recent, and it went up just last week. We did an interview with Rich Tommaso, who started what was going to be an ongoing series at Image called Dark Corridor. Did you guys read any of that?
Yeah, I did.
It's really interesting, kind of crime, kind of a darker crime story. And he had high hopes for that. He had elaborate plans. But then he realized that he couldn't sustain this series beyond the 7th issue. And in fact, his plans to have the first narrative arc end with 6 issues and then begin the next narrative arc with issue 7, he even had to truncate that. So if you got the individual issues of Dark Corridor, on the cover of issue number 6, it says final issue in the arc. And then it starts with 7. But then what happened was Tommaso and Image decided to just stop the title completely at issue 7. So the last issue of that first narrative arc is not 6, as advertised on the cover when it was published, but 7. So it was a little awkward, and
that's
he admits
the whole ending never made any sense to me, and I was like, I hate this book now because it just ended.
So you read it all the way through?
Yeah, I was really liking it.
And it did tie up real quick, and he admits that he wishes that he could have done more with it, but...
It just ended, and I was like, wait, what the hell?
Well, listen, if you haven't already, listen to our interview with him, because he talks about how that experience helped determine the way that he's approaching his next Image series, She-Wolf. Has anyone read that?
That's the one that just came out
last
week. Yeah, that one's wow.
That's weird. Yeah,
it's very weird.
Surreal.
I love the fact that it's so just out there. I'm literally looking forward to issue number 2 on that one.
Okay.
So hopefully he'll continue it.
Yeah. Well, there is plans 4 stories in this first arc, and if it's successful enough, he'll continue with another 4 issues.
Nice.
So he's a little.
I hope
he's a little more modest with this series than he was with Dark Corridor, or a little less ambitious, at least initially.
Well, I hope people pick it up, because it was the first issue is just like, wow, where's this going? Yeah, this is
definitely worth checking out.
Very cool. Yeah.
So now, the Throwaways,
Yes.
I know that we must have mentioned that on the show when it was solicited, but I can't remember us doing so. But it would have been a couple of months ago, because if this just came out today, then this would have been an
like 3
April
months
solicit.
ago. Yeah. Yeah, that was a while ago.
Yeah.
I don't even remember that far back. But yeah, it's a good read. Image has been putting out some really good books. Not all of them are like gonna make you ponder about the universe or whatever, because there's definitely some very silly books under Image. And one that's coming out in trade soon is Grizzly Shark.
Grizzly Shark's the best.
This is literally
Grizzly
Sabrina's
Shark.
favorite book right now.
Well, okay, it's over. It was 3 issues, but they're putting it in a trade, and it's just silly. It's funny. It's
And when is it
goofy.
coming out?
It's in this month's previews.
Oh, okay, so it's not going to be coming out for Shark Week.
No, that'd be the
Missed
best.
opportunity.
No, that is a missed opportunity.
Come on, Image.
It
Get on
started
the
just this
ball.
week.
Well, I think it was last week.
It was last week, sorry.
Yeah, it's just
Was
it's
Shark
really
Week last
funny.
week?
Yeah.
Oh, I
Think
missed
so.
everything.
Oh, I thought it was later this month. What?
No, I just started. I knew it was it was last week.
Okay.
Don't they have it on Netflix though?
For some reason,
Probably.
I was thinking,
I need
okay,
that.
well, this fourth Sharknado film, it has
Yeah.
to be around Shark Week time.
Sharks
So-
in space.
Don't tempt them. But that is great and coming out soon. Another one I'm really excited about is Glitter Bomb.
Glitter Bomb. I read that solicit. That seems interesting.
Yeah, woman's like, oh, I want to pursue an acting career. And the guy says terrible stuff to her. He's just incredibly rude.
Oh, yeah.
So she lashes out. Literally. So that's going
In
to be
a weird,
lot of
freaky
fun.
way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in a supernatural
That's the one where she does
way.
like an alien tongue thing straight.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. I remember
straight
reading
into
that
his
one.
mouth
Yeah.
and just, he's dead. Karma, I guess.
Instacart.
Right?
So the moral we learned here is be nice to future actresses.
Seriously, just because she's a mother doesn't mean you need to be nice. You need to be mean. But let's see, one that came out last week that was really good, and we're already sold out of is Hillbilly.
Oh yeah, I was gonna mention that.
Oh,
if you didn't.
Eric Powell's Hillbilly?
I really liked it.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna do a 12-issue thing at least. That's the minimum. And
It's great. It's like Appalachia horror. Like so, it's like
it's like Sword and Sorcery.
it's like
is how
yeah,
he
it's a bit
described it.
surreal, but set in America's Appalachian Mountains area.
Hillbillies with magic.
Yeah.
Okay, I remember that being solicited in the same issue as the second issue of Satan's Sodomy Baby. So did that come out?
That came out this week. We got one,
Please tell
and it
me
was
that's in my thing.
it was plastic wrapped.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And I'm super curious. I just want to know what's inside.
Have you not read the first
No.
Sodomy Baby? Oh,
Please, okay. That's in
I'm
my box
assuming
now.
it's bagged for a reason.
It is wild. Basically, it is Eric Powell letting loose, which actually, in some ways you could say that he lets loose with the Goon. But if you would take the Goon and you ramp it up and you give it an X rating, that's what you get in Satan's Sodomy Baby.
Wow.
He had me at Satan.
And so this second issue, and the thing about the first and this new second one is that he had just an initial print run. He says it'll never be reprinted again. So get your copy while you can.
Really?
We only
Yeah.
got one. Damn it.
Damn it.
Crushing my dreams. But yeah.
But anyway, Hillbilly. And another thing that's interesting about
Thumbs up.
Hillbilly is that he's publishing it through his own publishing arm.
Albatross.
Yes, exactly. And I'm wondering, he started off doing that with the Goon. Then the Goon eventually ended up with Dark Horse, and he continues to do things through Dark Horse, the Goon, and some other stuff. Buzzard. He's done an Image title, Little Big Man, or Big Man Plans. That's
Oh,
it.
yeah.
But now he's taking this not to Dark Horse, but to his own publishing arm. Huh.
Yeah. True.
I hope it's successful for him.
Yeah, it was good, and I can't wait until we get restocked on that one. Let's see, something else that I had a chance to read. The first issue of is Black Hammer. Did you get a chance to read?
I did. That was super weird.
Oh, that's the
Yeah.
Lemire
Has that issue already come out?
No. We get little pre-readings that
I'm
we
jealous.
definitely take advantage of.
I definitely am looking forward to that.
That was something that was originally
crazy.
solicited almost a year ago.
It was because I think the artist was dealing with some kind of cancer at the moment.
Yeah, so they just had
to
hold off.
Yeah, hold off on it.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they recovered and that this is coming back, and I can't wait for it.
Yep.
It's awesome.
And that's another Dark Horse.
Yeah. Dark
Is
Horse
it Dark Horse? I thought it was Image, but
No.
okay.
Dark Horse.
My
the
faith
first
is
issue was good.
restored.
It definitely. I don't know. It feels like superheroes trapped in another dimension kind of thing.
Yeah.
It is supposed to be like a mystery
But they're normal.
comic, right?
Normal. With quotes.
Normal.
If you could describe them as normal.
Yeah, because I mean, like one's clearly was an adult and she looks like a kid, and one looks like an old guy, but one looks like charred flesh.
Oh yeah, it's like
stretched out.
her superpower. The only way she can use it if she's in the child's body and she gets stuck in her or something like that.
Yep.
I'm like reading that part of the synopsis, and I'm like, yeah, I'm up for that.
She also likes to steal cigarettes
And smoke, yeah.
Yep.
She's like DC's baby doll or something like that.
I guess. But it's weird enough to be good, and people really like Lemire. So Freddie's distracting me with his phone. Anyway,
trying to take pictures.
another one that I had a chance to read a bit of was Briggs Land, the new Brian Wood book.
And that's going to be coming out when?
Very soon. Let's see, this is July, August?
That makes sense because it was solicited last month, now that I think about it. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal because it already has been optioned for AMC. I believe it's AMC, right?
I think so.
That they're gonna have a
AMC
new-
does everything these days, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and Netflix.
Yeah.
Well,
So yeah, Netflix is adopting everything now.
Yeah.
As they
Yeah.
should. It's all I have.
It's all I have.
So you say you did read an early issue of Briggs Land.
Yeah. God, I don't know how to describe it. I don't know. The woman, her husband's in prison, and she's trying to take control of the family. It sounds very mobby.
But it deals with separatists.
Inspired. Yeah.
So is it like a period piece set in like Civil War type stuff?
Not
or-
supernatural.
No, it's
or
contemporary, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Current.
Alright.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just a separate stuff title.
there are separatists in modern day, and it's really weird.
Of course there are.
Indeed. But she has grown sons, and she's trying to handle everything.
It's very TV drama-esque.
Yeah. And it was good, and I like Brian Wood. I've most of what he's written I've enjoyed.
Yeah. And it also makes sense that he could handle a title like this because it doesn't strike me as that dissimilar from DMZ that he did for Vertigo,
Yeah.
which is great.
Oh, it's
That really tapped into the Tea Party zeitgeist at the time. This is doing something similar.
Cool. Can't wait for that one. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, I'd love to discuss that
And-
first issue on the show. I'd actually love to have him on the podcast.
Dude,
Why
that'd be
don't you?
Yes.
I could. Yeah, I haven't inquired. Yeah, I should contact my people that I know at Dark Horse and see what they say.
Heck yeah.
I mean, it could. But the thing is, as much publicity as this is getting, it's his availability that would be the issue. And they really did push this. It was not last week, but the week before. There was a series of emails that I was getting from Dark Horse about Briggs Land, and each new email featured a profile of one of the characters in Briggs Land.
Nice.
So,
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
I'll
putting
keep
a lot
my
into
fingers
this.
crossed that you get the Brian Wood interview. So.
it would be good. Okay, so you're pointing to something else that I guess you've been reading, Sabrina. Cryptocracy.
Have you guys read it yet? The first issue's already
that
been out.
one's.
I read it backwards. If Sabrina will, no.
You read it backwards?
Well, because she was like, "Hey, you should go read what's on the computer," and so I read issue 2 of it, which was wild, especially if you haven't read issue 1. And then I scroll all the way up, and it's like, "Oh, there's issue 1."
Yeah. But there's a lot of world building because it's a family and they're controlling the world.
Even with that experience, I enjoyed it. It was good.
Yeah, and it's the same guy that wrote Pinocchio Vampire Slayer.
Ooh, what?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
a book.
That's a book. That's a real
older.
thing.
Yeah.
Pinocchio. He lies and breaks his nose off and stabs people to
Yeah,
death.
sure, why not?
Vampires.
Why has no one? You're
It's-
saying why has no one's done this sooner?
Yeah, we have it if you need to read it. It's fun.
It's a lot of fun.
This is more serious than that, but it's
Well,
still got humor.
Pudding would be more
I'm
serious than
pretty sure if
Pinocchio
I remember
Vampire.
correctly, there are aliens that
kidding.
are addicted to, like Coca-Cola and
But it is a lot of fun.
potato chips or
It's the
something.
same guy who did.
But anyway, you have these 9 families that control the
Abraham
world,
Lincoln Vampire Slayer or
and
something.
Unfortunately, no.
everything
but,
that happens
no.
is to their plan. They've never been faced with opposition, and this is the book telling the story of how they're facing opposition now. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun, and I've read the first 2, and I'm looking forward to
And
the
it's one
third.
that you recommend to the customers who come in here.
Yes, everyone come in, buy this book. It's fun.
You know, you guys were mentioning Pinocchio, well, Pinocchio Vampire Slayer, but the Pinocchio reference reminds me of the new Fables title, the first issue of which was just solicited in the current previews catalog.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of that? Are you guys Fables fans?
I never read it.
I never read it.
No.
Oh, okay.
I have
I'm
the
aware.
first volume, but I just haven't gotten
Yeah, I have
around
the
to
first
it.
volume too. It's on my Kindle.
I unfortunately have no volumes of it.
And I've never
So I was
heard
kind of
of
curious, what is the new Fables?
Hold on,
so
hold
maybe
on,
I
wait
need
a
to
minute.
become
Okay,
a Fables fan.
Chris just joined us, and he starts off by saying he's never heard of Fables.
What?
I've
Okay.
never heard of Fables.
Get out of here. Just leave, just leave right
You want me
now.
to show you
Exit
where we
through the
have
door.
it?
Yeah.
So you can look at it?
Little bit, yeah, sure, why not?
Oh, well, I feel that we
So what is the
need
new
to do
Fables
a
title?
thing.
Maybe I need to become a Fables fan.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah, I mean it is quite an important series, and it was for the longest time Vertigo's flagship title.
yeah, I knew that. Yeah, like I had friends that would keep telling me to get into it because they were reading it through Vertigo.
Yeah.
And then when it left, they stopped talking. 'Cause apparently, they stopped getting it. But
Chair almost collapsed on
But,
me.
no, it's one of those books you always think like, oh, I need to get that, and then you see the mountain of stuff I need to read, and I just kind of lose track of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you wanted to read Fables from start to finish now, I mean that'd be a long haul.
Right.
So
So
there's
this
a lot.
new one would be a good place to start.
150. I mean, in the main storyline, there's 150 issues, and even that 150th issue was in essence a trade of its own.
Any chance they're
But
online
then
somewhere?
there are side storylines, some of which feature Cinderella, some of which include other characters like Bigby Wolf. So, I mean, there's a lot to the Fables world. And so, anyway, the new Fables title that was, I guess, not too long ago announced is called Ever After. And basically, as the title suggests, picks up where the Fables story ended, the Fables story proper. Because when Fables was winding down that last year or so, they started a digital-first comic that they eventually put out in hard copy called The Wolf Among Us, which
Yeah,
was
yeah.
also a game.
Right, yeah, that was a Telltale game.
Right,
Yeah.
yes. But that was a title that was running concurrently with Fables for a while, but it concerned the Fables world, I don't maybe like right before issue number 1 of Fables began, chronologically speaking.
Huh.
But this one takes place after the final Fable story.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to play The Wolf Among Us now.
It's a fun game. It really is. If you like Telltale games.
I love some of the Telltale game stuff. I haven't played most of them.
Sabrina, I feel that we need to talk about Heathen again.
First off,
It's
check it.
in previews now.
$3.99. Heathen number 1.
And this is what you were singing the praises of last time.
Yeah, and I can join in because she lent it to me, and I was like, okay, I'm going to read a few pages for before bed, just like she said she did, and I also finished it without going to sleep. It was super good, and basically, you can actually get it in preview, so you can get it individually at your local comic book shop, or it has a Kickstarter now for Volume 2, and if you do the $50 level, you can get Volume 1 and 2.
And if you throw in 100,
You get a
you
necklace.
get a necklace
a
to,
Viking,
along with your
a Viking
Volume
shield
2.
pendant.
Yeah, and the Kickstarter is 100.
So basically, that's a $50 pendant.
Pretty
There's
much.
probably some other stuff
Yeah,
in there.
but it's been doing really, really well. She's met her first goal, and she's got a second one now, right?
Yeah, tears.
Yeah, so she's up to 14,000 the last I saw.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And then
her original
also,
goal was 11.
I would. It's interesting to note is that it also has the support of heavy metal, and they're going to be the ones publishing the individual issues.
Indeed. And the new printings of Volume 1 will have cleaner lettering.
So Heavy Metal's going to start carrying or publishing issues. Or are they going to run stories in Heavy Metal proper?
Supporting it, yeah.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, is this like one of the first executive decisions that Grant Morrison is making?
Well, if Grant Morrison was like, we should carry Heathen, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Grant Morrison.
Well, I'll support Stephanie and Sabrina on this. They let me look through it. It looks fantastic.
It's great.
The artwork is really, really good. It's a cool Viking tale. If you're into Vikings, this is a story for you. It's a really interesting tale.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's feminism.
Yep.
She doesn't take shit from anybody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you love strong female characters, especially ones with swords, this is a book for you.
Ooh, and Frank Cho has a new book coming out called Skyborn, which, if I am remembering correctly, it's mythology meets Indiana Jones. I can't find it.
Oh yeah, it's I can't remember the solicit, but it's one of these something meets something. And it's
like
a boom
Frank
book,
Cho.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks, it's pretty.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's Frank Cho.
Subject
So.
matter that I'm into, like mythology. It's really cool. So take my money, sir. Ooh. But good stuff.
Yeah,
Comics are fun.
Comics are really fun.
There's a lot of, it's...
And then on the silly side, I think Craig kind of touched on it, but I'm really enjoying Till All Are One, which is kind of leading up to their whole big universe reboot, but it's also about basically, if you like Beast Wars, characters from Beast Wars are there. You have Windblade, Starscream, and they're all
And this is what now?
Transformers.
Transformers.
And so Till All Are One, and it's basically them dealing with the war is over, and it's actually dealing with the realities of a post-war society, which is really interesting.
Yeah, it's got a really cool vibe on that one too, because now they tried to get rid of the Decepticons and Autobots, so they have a group of people that literally got rid of their symbols, and they're the police for keep making certain the Autobots and Decepticons don't go back to war, but yet maybe they're not as good as they're laid out to be, and they're doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing, that at least policemen shouldn't be doing, and it's got some really cool stuff in it.
See, I never got into Transformers, and so a lot of the context that you're describing goes over my head.
Sorry, I've been a Transformers fan since I was a kid.
It's just kind of one of those things where, you know how humans, when we have wars, like, people outgrow the wars, because eventually the people that start it, die off, and so at some point you have to stop. But you have a society of all these people that don't die because they're really almost nigh immortal, and therefore it never stopped until just recently. So you have this entire generations of people who've grown up in this war, and it's just kind of messed them up socially. And it's kind of a really interesting take for Transformers to actually go okay, the war is over, what do we do?
Yeah, and it's who's going to lead us now, because Optimus Prime is
war leader.
Yeah, war leader. We don't want him ruling the place anymore, and Megatron is gone, and we don't want him leading because he led us to war in the first place. And they're just it's interesting to see the Transformers saying we're tired of war, and
it's
where
just
do we
kind
go
of
from
a
here?
way to take an 80s franchise just meant to sell you toys and actually delve into it in a different way.
And make the characters that were just 80s toys actually give them depth and make them interesting, besides the fact that they're just war toys.
Speaking of taking toys and making them into comics, isn't IDW also the publisher putting out Action Man?
Yes.
They are. Action Man came out, was it last week or the week before?
Last week.
Because Action Man is basically a UK version of G.I. Joe.
Right. And, back when, that was one of the toys to have back in the day, because Action Man could be anything. You could dress him up as a spy, you could make him a superhero, whatever. And so this version of it is the original Action Man dies, but so he has a hand-picked predecessor that he wants to become the new Action Man. And so now, can this guy be the new Action Man? Can he be, this our new hero, or is he just going to fold under all the pressure that Action Man has to go through? And they also want, IDW wants that to be part of their new shared universe as well. So it's going to be weird.
It's going to be weird because you're going to have, this is a shared universe where you have Micronauts who are itty bitty,
yes,
G.I. Joes, Transformers, and then even bigger Transformers.
Yes.
And somehow we're all supposed to be on an equal playing field here for there to be an event.
Okay. I don't mean to sound cynical here, but I guess this.
Oh, please do.
Yeah, go ahead.
We said the same thing, probably.
Why the need for a shared universe?
I don't
certain.
know.
That
Actually,
one was
because
weird.
even as much as I love what they've been doing with their franchises, it's really weird because the Transformer stuff has been going on for so long and does have a lot of depth and backstory, and you're telling me that the G.I. Joes never showed up to say, hey, stop that.
I mean, it's one thing when you have a shared universe that kind of grows over time more organically,
right.
Like DC, Marvel. Yeah, okay.
Even when Image was doing the superhero stuff.
But then, or even let's say when Valiant.
That's a better example.
Yeah, bringing everyone slowly together.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense to me. But do you absolutely, as a publisher, whether or not you publish superhero narratives, absolutely need a shared universe? I mean, we saw what happened, and not just once, when Dark Horse tried something like this.
Yeah.
It didn't last.
No.
And now we have IDW, and to me, one publisher who just seems they wouldn't do this at all, because a lot of what they rely on is franchise properties, right?
Well,
is a shared universe, but yet they have
it's going to be just Hasbro stuff, so it's not like any of wait, does that mean Gem and the Holograms gets to play? Because I really hope so.
Wow, I didn't even think about that one. Now I really am excited about this.
That'll be interesting.
But I don't think that's part of it, but I don't know. I personally don't feel it makes sense, because I think maybe Action Man, G.I. Joe, and Micronauts might play nice together, but then you throw in Transformers, and it's just all out the window.
And especially if they're using the universe that the Transformers are in, that universe is a mess. Thanks to Transformers.
I would become interested in this if all of a sudden they started to publish a title, Major Matt Mason. Because I had a Major Matt Mason when I was a little kid.
Okay, I'm not...
You don't even know...
Did you say math or meth?
Matt.
Not Major Meth Mason, no.
No, that would be
Major
amazing.
Matt Mason. No, now,
Very strange,
okay,
really.
when I was a little kid, I was growing up in the 70s, and keep in mind that this is... right at the heyday of the Apollo missions.
Yeah,
and so astronauts were really big.
Yeah.
And so an action figure that they had was, and you remember this,
I remember
Major Matt Mason. And I had one.
Nice.
So I also had an Evil Knievel. So maybe IDW could also do Evil Knievel.
I
title.
wish.
Yeah.
Through your lips to God's ears. That would be great. Because I also had the Evil Knievel action figure.
With a little wind-up motorcycle.
I had that. And I had the original G.I. Joe.
I used to do a lot of different things with that. I used to play it off heights, and it would never break.
Yeah, it was
like
amazing.
Evil Knievel, the actual person.
Yeah, it was great. I love that. I'd throw it right off the banister and watch it crash, or sometimes it would actually land and still go.
That's another thing they're resurrecting is Mask, which is just so random.
Yeah, they got the rights to the Mask properties. If you remember from Saturday morning cartoons.
And Rob.
Oh yeah. Well, see, by that point in the '80s, I wasn't watching.
No, that was more my time. And they also got Rom Space. Well, Rom, not. They got the rights to that one. Yeah. They don't have the rights to Space Knight, so we can't call him Rom Space Knight anymore. But it's that's the thing of lawyers that make it life weird. So,
but I do remember though Micronauts and Rom, because those started at the tail end of the '70s.
Yeah. Which, by the way, guys, if you haven't gone out and checked out the new Micronauts that IDW is doing, it's really good.
That's another one I'm really enjoying too.
It's they've taken the feel of the old Micronauts that the Marvels used to do, and again put their own spin on it, and give these toy characters again more depth, and made them really interesting.
And then also kind of use the fact that no one knows what the Faroid toy was supposed to be to their advantage.
Yes.
They have a character who is a Faroid or whatever, but in the back of the comic it's question mark, and no one knows what it is because the toys didn't know what they were supposed to be.
Right, it was just toys.
Amazing.
Yeah. That you could do anything with because it used the power of magnets. But yeah, that's one, guys. If you're nostalgic for for that type of stuff, or you really need to check that stuff out, because IDW's really knocked it out of the park with just the stuff that they do have. Even if your guys are Godzilla fans, they do a great Godzilla book.
Oh yeah, the Godzilla in Hell book was very artsy. Actually.
Oh my God, that was amazing. Yeah, it was really great. The IDW really, with their just franchise properties, they really know how to use them and use them to good stuff.
Well, so far we've been talking about the things that you're reading this summer that, if we were doing this almost any other month throughout the year, this would make sense because you're talking about the things that you're currently reading. Do you feel that what you're reading now or what you want to read may lend itself more to summer reading, however we choose to define that? I mean, so for instance, when you think of summer reading, what do you think of?
To be honest with you, since I may be older than most of the people here, events are summer reading because they're just supposed to be. They're not supposed to be world stuff. They're just supposed to be fun events that happen. Like the original Secret Wars, which was just a thing to sell toys, but it was fun to read. But now, stuff like Godzilla, which Godzilla Oblivion is currently ongoing, those are fun stories to read because Godzilla is just a fun character. And I think they're just anything that's really just fun that doesn't maybe not be the most world-building event or maybe mind-altering stuff.
It's kind of like summer blockbusters, right?
Exactly. Yeah, kind of like exactly.
I have 2 summer titles if anyone wants like something kind of to put them in the summer mood. I would say Goldie Vance, which is becoming an ongoing. It's kind of at this like 1950s hotel, and they also it's a detective agency. It's pretty fun. And then the other one would be the Lumberjanes and Gotham Academy crossover, which is really cute.
That one is really well done. That was a crossover you didn't think you needed until it happened.
Until it happened, because it makes so much sense. But you wouldn't have thought
I wasn't a
about
fan of the Lumberjanes until I started reading Gotham Academy and that combined universe. I'm like, wow, this is really good. Maybe I need to go back and read the Lumberjanes.
They're smart.
They got
craft.
Yeah, that's I'm gullible like that too. So
no, it's a great way to get new readers in and sell trades of the older stuff.
And so that's what they used to do is just they would do either crossover events with the old stuff, and you're like, oh yeah, this Captain America guy looks pretty cool, and he's traveling with the X-Men, and maybe I need to read more Avengers or And sadly, they don't do much of that anymore.
No, because they don't like the X-Men anymore.
No.
Well, it's also a crossover of different publishers, right?
Yeah.
It's
which is
Boom and
unusual.
DC.
Yeah, very unusual.
Well, it's not so much unusual now. It's just that Marvel and DC don't like to play in the same sandbox anymore.
True.
Which is sad, because I really want another Amalgam 2 thing.
Yes.
Because who they would mix everyone with would be completely different. Because before, they had, like, Wolverine and Batman, which seems weird, because now it would be, like, Iron Man and Batman. But, like, back then, it made complete sense to have who they,
because it was the two of the most popular characters at the time, and they made Dark Claw, and it was amazing. So
and Jubilee was Robin.
Yes, it was.
Well, back in the 70s, you had Superman versus Spider-Man.
Yes.
Which I always thought was ridiculous because, Superman.
I know.
Seriously.
And Spider-Man. I like Spider-Man, but come on, Superman.
Yeah, there was also an
I had to buy that book because I'm like, really? How's he going to live through this?
Yeah.
Yes.
I believe there was also an instance in which the X-Men crossed over with Teen Titans.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, Raven tried to murder Jean, I believe, because of Dark Phoenix.
And like Beast Boy and Kitty Pryde were flirting with each other and
I
messed with Professor X's chair.
I think one way of looking at summer reading, Craig, as you pointed out, is an event. Growing up, it used to be that we would have the events in the summer for particular reasons, not 12 months out of the year.
No, it's completely different now.
Yeah, and then what Stephanie mentioned, stories that give you kind of a beach or a summer feeling, however we choose to define that. And when I think of summer reading, a couple things come to mind. One is the beach.
Right.
If you take something down to the beach with you while you're lazing around, what are you going to read? But also, having spent the majority of my life in academia, either as a student or as a professor, I think of summer primarily as a time that I don't have to work in the same way I did the other parts of the year.
You can
so
read
I have more time.
And
maybe read those things that I always wanted to, but I just hadn't taken the time to do so.
Or couldn't read because you're told to read something else.
Or I needed to prepare for class, or to work on a particular essay, or any number of reasons. So I'm thinking, okay, so what is it this summer that I would have time, if I had the time, and I don't, but if I had the time, what are some of those things that I would read? One of the things I'd like to do now, since we're going to get pretty soon some brand new Cerebus
Really?
Yes,
Yeah, it
and
was
in fact,
solicited this month.
issue number 0 of Cerebus in Hell, right? Cerebus in Hell? Question mark?
Really?
Yeah. Issue number 0 was solicited in the current previews. And this is the first time we've had brand new Cerebus stories.
I was going to say
for
forever.
years. Yes.
Yeah.
And so I'm of the mind that if I had the time, I would love to go back and reread Cerebus. I'd have to fish out, those old phone book length
Yeah, those are
volumes.
big books.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
I mean,
haven't
300
thought about
issues.
Cerebus in
That's
a
a lot
long,
of
long
book.
time. Yeah.
So Cerberus goes home, is basically.
Cerebus apparently in hell.
Well, he died.
Yeah,
at
he
the end
died
of the
at the
series, and
end.
that's no spoiler. So where is he going to be? It's kind of like Hellboy in Hell, but now you have Cerebus in Hell.
I don't know. That
With
could
the
be
question mark.
amazing. Yeah, that could be amazing. That Cerebus was a really, really cool book that someone recommended to me when I was in college, and I was basically just picking up all Marvel titles and like, hey, you need to break the Marvel stuff. Read Cerebus. I'm like, I'll give it a shot.
Very, very different from
Yeah,
Sounds like
anything Marvel was doing.
yeah, it was completely different than anybody was doing, and that's what kind of grabbed me on it. So it's a great book. It's another highly recommend. I know there's a lot of issues, but just pick up an issue of it, and it's really good.
Also, kind of summary, I guess, just because it makes me super nostalgic, is Future Quest.
Oh,
Which
yes.
is just the crossover all the Hanna-Barbera Saturday morning cartoon stuff. So if you grew up way when they were shorts on TV, or you were watching the blocks on Cartoon Network in the 90s, it just kind of brings back the time when you were home during the summer and just watching anything that was on TV.
Yeah, and they stayed so true to the characters on that from the Saturday morning cartoons. They were kind of crazy, but they have all these crazy characters, and they're all just doing crazy stuff, and it's a lot of fun. That book is just super fun. That is a summer read book.
So both of you are reading that.
Oh yeah,
And also, I was really excited because they one of the portals opened up, and then when I was little, I thought that Space Ghost was just Batman's adventures in space. And so when I opened the page, and I was like, hey, it's Girl Robin. Because that's what I thought it was. That's why I really loved Space Ghost, because he had the female sidekick and the monkey. It was great.
yeah, it's really, really cool. It's a mashup of all the Hanna-Barbera cartoons. DC really did a great job with all of this, and that's one of those things that you're like, oh man, I can't wait for the next issue, and how much crazier can it get? Because now they've added in Johnny Quest and
Birdman
and Birdman and all this stuff, and they had to go rescue, as Stephanie already said, Girl Robin and
Monkey Robin.
and Monkey Robin, or Jan and Mike, and I can't remember what the monkey's name was.
Well, I guess it's Jace. Or maybe
Jace,
they updated
that was it.
But it's Jason.
Jason, Jana, that was it.
Well, I'm going to check that out, because when I saw that, I was a little skeptical.
It's really fun.
I don't know.
We were all
Like-
skeptical too until we read the first issue, and we were like, "Oh my god,
It's
this
just
is
really true to
greatness."
what it,
And
the spirit of it. It didn't go dark and edgy. It's just this is it. We kind of just updated it enough to be it makes sense, and then went with it. It's fun.
Another one of the good Hanna-Barbera stuff is, I recommend highly the Scooby-Doo title that
Oh yeah,
came
that
up.
was surprising.
That was surprising.
Scooby-Doo Apocalypse?
Yeah, that was surprisingly really well done. It was a good new take on the Scooby-Doo franchise, and that's another just fun book. A great book to put out in the summer, because it's just a lot of fun, and it's Scooby-Doo, and I love Scooby-Doo. So
Now, have you two read the newest Hanna-Barbera, the new Flintstones?
I
It
have
came out
not.
today,
Yeah.
so I haven't read it yet.
No, okay. I was gonna
looking
see
forward
if
to
we
that
get your
one, though.
opinion first before I pick it up.
Because that one, from the reviews I've had, says it has a, like the Flintstones back in the day would talk about what was going on in modern day society, even though it was a cartoon.
Right.
And they said it still keeps that tradition of what's going on.
So they talk about
now.
Trump all the time?
No, no,
Slade
but some
runs
of the
for office.
more,
Yeah, the dad was screwed up.
from what I understand, but more in the lines of indentured servitude and what corporations may be or may not be doing with salaried employees.
Heavy stuff.
Yeah, a little more
cartoony.
more a cartoony look to it, but
Okay.
still a, Slade may not be the greatest boss ever.
Oh, also, I would also kind of feel that it's kind of summary in a way is the DC Bombshells one, because it's just I guess because I'm thinking of Mira, but they're all kind of done. It was kind of just a line of statues meant to be it's bomber artwork, but then they turned it into something just really just high action, high adventure, just World War II, women fighting during the war, and it's great. It's super fun. And also emotional. You'll cry, but it's good.
Yes.
You'll have feelings.
No, you'll have feelings. Darn it! But that book is also just a lot of fun, especially if you like period pieces back in the World War II days.
Yeah.
All the men, of course, are off fighting, and that's why these girls are here.
Yeah, they're like the men are off, and then they're like the last line of defense, and they're going at it. It's pretty great. Like
so it's got a really good vibe to it, and they did a really good take on it. So good writing on that one. They didn't just do it as a joke.
Which it easily could have just been like, just to be like, oh, look at these women. Look at how they're bending over.
Yeah, please buy our statues. Yes.
Well, before we wrap up this July on Location show, since we're talking about summer reading, the latest issue of the freebie Plano magazine came out just this past week, and it had a summary cover, right? The cookout, the hot dog, and that's why I bring this up. But I also bring it up because you got, not just me, but you guys.
You got your own 2-page spread.
Yeah.
Well, they were doing the story on the Comics Alternative, so that's why
don't
I
be
would
so
get
modest.
that.
It was very impressive.
But you guys are in the picture as well.
Yes.
Yeah, that was really neat to see that, and but it was really cool.
We are immortalized.
Yeah, but it was still cool that you got some more promotional stuff out there.
Oh yeah, and it's interesting. I wonder how many people pick up and read Plano magazine, because I'll be honest, I did not. I don't live in Plano. I live in Frisco. I did not know about Plano magazine until Nick, who did the piece, contacted me and wanted to do that.
So it wasn't something like spontaneous, like, hey, by the way, we're gonna be up there while you're doing the podcast.
No. He knew about Nick knew about the podcast, and so he wanted to do a story for them on the Comics Alternative. And so he told someone about the piece he was writing, or he told the editor, and she came down here that last time we were here to take pictures while we were recording.
Yeah, I remember her. Yeah. I don't know if this makes you feel any better, but my mom got it, and she goes, "Look, you made the Plano magazine." So
good.
There's at least one person that got it.
So if we can get a few new readers or listeners, I guess, here and there because of that, then that's great. Anything to spread the love.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're about nothing at the Comics Alternative if not about spreading love.
That's exactly right.
Yes. The good kind of love.
Yes.
Not the kind you need to get a shot for.
Oh, jeez. That did not go in the direction I thought I was going to go to.
Well, guys, I want to thank you for taking part in this On Location show, as you always do. First and foremost, Sabrina, for allowing us into the shop and talking with us.
It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, and Stephanie for not working but talking with us, which I guess is her own kind of work, right, boss?
Of course, yeah.
But also Chris, Matt, and Craig, thank you guys for participating in this episode.
I had a ton to contribute. I think I said all of 3 lines.
Well, you came late, but
still you came.
On the upside, there were fewer bangings on the table.
That's true.
I've been working on it. Also not screaming into the mic.
Yes. So, had a good time talking with you guys, and we hope to do this again next month. Again, we want to remind all our listeners that Collected in Plano is located at 3100 Independence Parkway. It's on the corner of Independence and Parker in Plano, Texas. Come on in, tell them that you heard about them through the Comics Alternative, and, I don't know, maybe, if not a discount, they'll give you a couple of bookmarks. Something, yeah. They'll give you a lot of attention.
It'll be a surprise.
It'll be a surprise. There you go. You heard it from the manager herself. And after you do find out more about Collected Comics and Games in Plano, Texas, then definitely get in touch with us and let us know what you think about these on-location shows. If you go to our website, comicsalternative.com, you'll find that you can leave us a voice message easily enough through SpeakPipe, which is really easy to use. Or, I just said that, it's easy to use. Or you can call us the old-fashioned way. Our phone number is 415-3COMICS. That's 415-326-6427. You can also email us. We're 2guys@comicsalternative.com, or you can contact me directly at derek@comicsalternative.com. You can also find us all over the social media sphere. We are shameless that way. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr, Instagram, Google+, Goodreads, Pinterest, and YouTube. You can subscribe to the podcast through iTunes. You can stream us on Stitcher. You can also find us on TuneIn. You can now listen to us via Spotify, and if you're an Android user, on Google Play Music. But as always, you can still find every single one of our episodes, as well as the reviews and the comics-related commentary that we post on our blog by going to our website, which is comicsalternative.com. That's right. Say it after me, guys.
comicsalternative.com.
And what a great way to end this episode. Thanks, everyone. I had a great time.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.